We've seen the tape. She didn't do anything.
She didn't, but you're...
Well, it looks like things got even worse for Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. I think many of you are aware this is the Congresswoman being charged with assault for hitting Homeland Security officers at the ICE detention facility in Newark, New Jersey, Delaney Hall. So, because of that, Representative Nancy Mace, she filed for a resolution to expel Representative LaMonica McIver following assault of federal officers. Now, we will dig into the details of this document. How could you expel a sitting member of Congress? It's happened before. And we will dig into all of the brand new statements regarding this situation. Now, real quick, as we go through the video, please leave your comments down below and make sure to interact with the video. It helps others see the videos as well, so they can also be aware of what's happening with LaMonica McIver and our U.S. government.
You said this morning that, Haba said you had declined every opportunity to come to a resolution. You said they wanted you to admit to something you didn't do. What did they want you to admit to?
I mean, there was a lot. We've had a week of back and forth with them, and I will say that I did not waver. You know, I showed up there to do my job, and she wanted me to admit to doing things, all of these different lists of things that she said that I did.
Like what?
I mean, from things of impeding, you know, there was some other things in there that she put in there, but I can't remember exactly what it was, but she wanted me to admit to these things, sign an agreement to them, and I'm not doing that, you know, because it's not true.
So this is rather interesting. LaMonica McIver is seeing this interaction with the Attorney General as an admission of guilt. She's not seeing it as an equal ground to try and squash everything, maybe apologize. We can just squash it and move on. Nope, she's saying, I did nothing wrong. Despite all of the camera evidence, we'll get to that in a second, it was all Homeland Security's fault.
When you look back at video, I'm sure you were just digesting it all in the moment when you were doing all those interviews that day. You've probably talked to your colleagues. As you've pieced together what happened, I mean, did you even know who you were surrounded by at the time?
It was fast. It happened so fast. I mean, I was just talking about this with Rep. Bonnie Watson the other day. We were on a segment together, and they were playing the video back, and we were just talking about how it was so disheartening to see that episode. It was a very tense situation. We were trying to ask questions, trying to get explanation from the officials that were there, and it was just so chaotic. And ICE and Homeland Security definitely escalated the situation, caused the chaos and the confrontation.
Now, I don't know if LaMonica McIver is aware, we have nearly all of the footage to include the beginning of the interaction when everything was peaceful and when Homeland Security was actually working with the members of Congress. There was no escalation.
Stand up for our mayor. We will be your eyes and your ears. And we will report to you, Mayor.
Yes, Congresswoman! Shut it down!
Now, the reason why that video is so crucial is because it goes to show they were about to leave to go and do their Delaney Hall inspection, showing that Homeland Security was willing to work with them. But even more important, they were talking to the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. He was on the other side of the gate. There were no issues, so why all of a sudden is there an escalation? Was it Homeland Security, or was it the members of Congress who ran back to prevent the mayor of Newark, New Jersey from being arrested? Now, this is very interesting because in the resolution to expel LaMonica McIver that was submitted by Nancy Mace, she even says interfered with a lawful arrest. That part right there seems to be overlooked as far as the context. Whenever a left-leaning media source talks about this, they just talk about the escalation. They don't talk about the parts before the blocking off of the mayor from being arrested. So I find it pretty interesting she actually put that in there because a lot of people don't talk about this. And then, of course, she put in physically assaulted multiple federal officers, including striking a Homeland Security investigations agent and pushing an ICE deportation officer. Now, what I also find interesting, and I will show you guys here in a second, Mace's resolution notes that the House has already set precedent for expelling members charged but not yet convicted. Now, Congress does have the ability to expel you. Under Section 5 here, each House may determine the rules its proceedings punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. So it's going to take a 2/3 vote to expel LaMonica McIver. But again, I want to make this clear, it's to protect the House of Representatives. We don't know if that person will be fully convicted, yet they have been charged with a crime. And you really only submit these resolutions if it's pretty clear on camera this person was hitting Homeland Security officers, which is why this resolution has been submitted.
They can bring the charges.
Hey, you can always bring charges.
But they got to get a judge there in New Jersey who's going to look at this, just like with the Judge Dugan case in Wisconsin. They filed a motion for immunity. That will be one of the issues here. You heard that statement from Representative McIver. I was doing my job. When a member of Congress is doing their job, they are immune under the Constitution of the United States. Donald Trump does not like the Constitution of the United States because it gets in his way. So
that's an understatement. No.
So this case is going to have to run the gauntlet. A federal judge is going to look at it. If it gets past the federal judge, it's going to have to go to a jury. I've been appearing before juries for almost 40 years. This is not going to be a easy case for the Department of Justice to win. We've seen the tape. She didn't do anything.
Now, this is very crucial. First off, make sure you guys save that clip and soundbite because I'm sure we will resurface it very soon when LaMonica McIver does end up getting charged with everything she's getting charged with. One thing I do want to point out is Democrats are not talking about the impediment. They're not talking about the assault. They're talking about LaMonica McIver doing her job. Now, I've talked about this before. Republicans, you got to be a little more careful. She has every right to be at that facility, even when it comes to the standard operating procedures of visiting ICE facilities. Even though she showed up unannounced, she is allowed to do that if you want to go through this whole document. She only had to give a 24-hour notice if she brought staff members. However, they were members of Congress, so they are allowed to be there, which is actually a good thing. We want our oversight to make sure our people are doing what they're supposed to be doing if taxpayer money, is funding these ICE facilities. But I do want to mention they're sticking to the LaMonica McIver is just doing her job. However, is it part of your job to impede arrest? Is it part of your job to shove Homeland Security officers? That is the complaint, not her actually doing her job.
Congresswoman LaMonica McIver was with Mayor Baraka at the ICE detention center when he was arrested. Alina Habba has now charged Congresswoman McIver with assault.
So hold on. You notice that Rachel Maddow just said, oh, LaMonica McIver was with the mayor and then she was arrested. She skipped the whole part where even LaMonica McIver and the other members of Congress have fully admitted they were surrounding the mayor to make sure he doesn't get arrested. This is why I keep pointing out a lot of these left-leaning media outlets are skipping the entire first half of the altercations,
claiming that she assaulted, impeded, and interfered with law enforcement at the ICE facility. Congresswoman McIver has responded with this statement, quote, earlier this month, I joined my colleagues to inspect the treatment of ICE detainees at Delaney Hall in my district. We were fulfilling our lawful oversight responsibilities as members of Congress have done many times before. The charges against me are purely political. They mischaracterize and distort my actions. They are meant to criminalize and deter legislative oversight. And indeed, federal law explicitly protects the rights of members of Congress to inspect federal detention centers for immigrants, even with zero notice that they are doing so.
And by the way, for the first time ever, I agree with Rachel Maddow. I actually keep saying conservatives and Republicans, make sure you guys know the policies, because members of Congress, especially on the Homeland Security Oversight Board, they are allowed to just show up. It's highly disrespectful. She still did it, but remember, we have all of the video evidence when they showed up. As they were showing up, we can see it was peaceful. So make sure we are sticking to the camera footage and make sure we are sticking to the first half, the middle half, and the last half where we can see everything that happened.
The most disgusting thing about this is, while she's putting hands on an ICE officer, I'm attending Blue Mass from Washington, D.C. for the heroes, the law enforcement, federal, state, local, who gave their lives for this country. I'm going to the Border Patrol Memorial. I'm going to the ICE Memorial to pay tribute to the men and women who wear a badge and gun, and to their families who lost their loved ones, and they got to deal with that every day. Children without fathers that died in line of duty. At the same time we're doing that, along with President Trump in Washington, D.C., they're assaulting ICE agents. It is just disgusting, and they're going to be held accountable. Every single time they break the law, we'll be looking for prosecution.
Now, the funny part is, even Mayor Baraka is very careful about what he says on national television. You'll notice he always admits, yeah, there was pushing and shoving, but he doesn't talk about why there was pushing and shoving. He just says, you can look at the footage and you'll see there's pushing and shoving. Check this clip out.
Tell us, when you see that she's now been charged with these allegations, is that what you experienced? Is that what you witnessed?
Well, I think the Congress people went there to do their job, to have oversight. I think, ultimately this is not about even what happened there. It's about a fight in this country, about due process and the Constitution of the United States. I think there's some people who believe they could do what they want to do and violate people's rights and their due process, and there are people who are trying to provide oversight, and it's causing conflict in this. I didn't see any of the things that were stated. I didn't see any of those things happen. So I think that the Congresswoman will be vindicated. And the videos are clear. Everybody can see those videos. They'll see the whole thing, and it'll be clear to me, and it'll be clear to her in court.
I mean, the videos are pretty clear, are they not? I mean, she's shoving, elbows, some punches. I mean, this is a lot of violent activity against law enforcement, isn't it?
It's a lot of pushing and shoving. I don't know if...
Would a regular person, if they came and did that to a federal officer, get away with it?
Regular person?
Like a regular, just a non-politician?
They might get pardoned.
If they showed up at a federal facility,
they might get pardoned by the
president. But were they charged? Were they charged? Were they convicted in court?
Let me.
Yes.
Would a regular person get away with it?
You brought up what she was.
Now, as I was filming this video, I actually noticed LaMonica McIver actually responded to the resolution to get her expelled from Congress, and all she said was, in the South, I think they say, bless her heart. Now, let's just actually read these comments real quick. I don't know what we're about to see. If assaulting a police officer doesn't get you expelled from Congress, then what does? Please file a resolution to expel Nancy Mace for seeking too much attention. Actually, in the South, we say arrest, charge, and convict people who assault ICE agents. I'm telling you right now, a lot of comments are not in favor of LaMonica McIver.
I mentioned this in the opening of the show, that the Justice Department has a public integrity section that always has to typically approve if there are charges that are going to be filed against a member of Congress or an elected official, and sometimes those are warranted. They did not do that in this case, according to NBC reporting, which I don't know if you just learned that today, but what is your reaction to that?
I mean, it's not shocking. We've been seeing from this administration constant, breaking of the rules.
I mentioned this.
Now, MSNBC really keeps pushing this public integrity department. I'm going to let Rachel Maddow talk about it, but one thing I want to remind you guys, the majority of Americans don't have trust in the DOJ and the public integrity. So I find it very comical that MSNBC is trying to side with the mass minority of people who even care about this topic.
Trump Justice Department considers removing key check on lawmaker prosecutions. The Post reporting on a proposal inside the Justice Department to make it so federal prosecutors across the country could indict sitting members of Congress without getting approval from lawyers in Maine Justice's public integrity section. So any random U.S. attorney anywhere in the country could indict a sitting member of Congress on their own say-so without even needing to run it by anyone in Washington. That story broke on Friday, and it's obviously a big deal, right? One of the reasons the public integrity section exists at DOJ is to prevent prosecutors from bringing politically motivated charges. With this change, prosecutors could indict members of Congress on their own with no oversight and no check against politically motivated prosecutions.
So as you can see, MSNBC is very worried how the DOJ, they're a little more lackluster in this department, even though what happened back in 2024 or really before that, were there not members of government who had charges brought up against them where people are arguing was politically motivated? I don't know. I'm just making some observations and reading the comment sections.
Well, I think, one, this is political intimidation from the Trump administration. I mean, me being charged is absurd, you know, especially when I'm just there to do my job. The confusion and the chaos that you see was caused by ICE officials and Homeland Security. They created this unnecessary situation by arresting the mayor, which later they dropped the charges, as you can see, you know, creating an unsafe environment for us as members of Congress, the mayor, and peaceful protesters that were outside of this facility. Once again, it was so unnecessary and it didn't have to be.
Now, I do find it very ironic to talk about intimidation because we have body cam footage, and make sure you're listening to the audio. There's somebody in that audio who brings up their authority as far as intimidation.
To a congresswoman like that, and you gotta have to put your hands on me, you will pay. You guys are creating this. You know that's wrong.
Okay, so those are all of the updates. I really appreciate everyone for being here. Thank you guys for watching the video. God bless, and we'll see you all later.